about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hello, my name is Linda Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? Not only that, let's ship, this is such a special day, let's ship the first plugin using our library today. That's what we are going to do. So, this is the day when we look back on all the work we did over the course of almost 8 months at this point. It is a ridiculous amount of time for such a simple plugin, I will admit that, but we have explored a lot of different ways of writing JSFX and different ways of drawing to the screen, different ways of, I guess, controlling parameters. We investigated deep and wide all the possibilities, and I think that we landed on something that is pretty solid. So we have a plugin. It's not complete in the sense that there are features I would like the plugin to have, but we have not implemented them. But there comes a time in every project when you have to say, enough is enough. Let's ship what we have and leave the rest for version 2, right? Because we need to have a version 2 at some point. And this is what, so this is where we are right now. Let's first look at the plugin, see what it does. Then we'll go over the code that powers this plugin. And finally, we'll do whatever work we need to ship this. We are shipping this today, regardless of the state of the thing. If it is functioning, right? It is working. You can see it working here. So even if there are features missing, we'll ship what we have today. And we will go over the process of shipping a plugin, which is nothing fantastic, but it is something that people need to do when they do plugins, and I will show you how I do it. All right, so the plugin in question, in case you are new here and you're just joining us on the streams, I am doing a library in JSFX to do real-time processing of audio in REAPER. My main focus of this library is to help you, the developer, have plugins that show what is happening to the audio. So in the case of a compressor, for instance, you would like to show the waveform scrolling across and how it is being affected by the compressor. That sort of thing. And this is the first plugin we are doing. It is just to showcase a component from our library that I will be using starting perhaps next week. Starting next week, we will revisit my Auto Mixer, which is my most elaborate JSFX plugin so far. We are going to revisit that. If you're interested in knowing what it does and how it works, there are plenty of streams and videos way back in my channel, probably from 1.5 years ago, that explains all this. We're going to revisit that, and we're going to re-implement that, adding new features, fixing bugs, and using the components in the library, such as this one. And that's why I wanted to do this little widget. Anyway, so this plugin is rather straightforward. It is meant to be used on the mixer control panel or on the track control panel, and it is going to show you the waveform as it scrolls across. As simple as that. It can be quite useful though, right? Or it can be just cute, I guess. So let's go over all the sliders, then we are going to visit the code that powers this, some parts of the library, not the entirety of the library because the library is pretty big at this point. But we'll go over the highlights, and then we are going to ship this. So we are going to put it in ReaPack, and Actually, it's already in ReaPack. I put it there because people wanted to test it out, but I will put it there for real this time, and I will show you the process that I go through when I am publishing something to ReaPack. And that will be that. Let's start with the sliders. Every track in REAPER has an even number of channels. So if you want some mono signal to run through a track, it will still be 2 channels. It's just that the 2 channels contain the same data, the same audio. And this is the case here. My microphone is mono, but the track is stereo. We see 2 separate meters. And our plugin supports multiple channels. In REAPER, you have to have an even number of channels on a track. So you can see here on the number of channels on a track, there are only even numbers. But in the context of this plugin, if you are monitoring or if you are visualizing a mono signal, having a stereo track, it's okay, but it's not the best. So I decided to have a control over the number of channels that will be displayed. So if you just have 1 here, it will just display the first channel. And if you have 6, it will display up to 6 channels. It may display fewer channels if the track doesn't have 6 channels. And the reason why I did this is because I want mono signals to just have a mono waveform going across, pretty much in the same way that happens when you are recording. If you are recording a mono signal, it will only show 1 waveform. So that's my intent. That's what I wanted this to look like. But I also have an option to show all the channels on the track. And that's there because sometimes your track will have 6 channels or 2 channels, and you would like to visualize all the channels in the track, regardless of what happens. Hello, Bo. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining me. I hope you are as excited as I am to finally put a plugin out there using the library after all the preamble and investigation. So today we are looking back and moving forward. That's what we are doing. We are looking back on everything we did in the development of the library and this effect, and we are moving forward and publishing it. And as the default here, I have 1 channel. I think it is a good default. I don't know. I guess if people don't like it, they will just change it. And the point is to have this on the MCP anyway. So you're probably going to save this as an effects chain or as a track template. So if you don't like the defaults, you just change them anyway. So that's the number of channels thing and the reason why I have this control. I don't love that I have to have this control, but it is what it is. Perhaps what I wished for is for REAPER to perhaps have a notion of mono tracks. I don't know if it would make sense to allow you any number of odd channels, so 3 and 5. But perhaps 1 channel could come in handy. Whatever. Duration. So you can make the thing scroll across more slowly, or you can make it scroll across so fast that it's almost like a waveform. It's almost like what is the word I'm reaching for? I don't know. It is almost like you're looking at an oscillator in a synthesizer kind of thing. And 5 seconds is good. I think that it scrolls across rather nicely here. And if you are doing this on the TCP and you have huge tracks, it still makes sense to scroll at this speed. Let me change the color of the track. And perhaps one thing that I would like to change in the future is that as you are scrolling across this slider, the history is preserved, but the history is showing audio at a different rate, right? You can see this as I'm moving across, and this is sort of an artifact of the implementation that we chose. And I think that the implementation we chose, the way we are actually drawing things, is the best way we can, but there is this little artifact where we have already decided what we are going to draw. So if you move the slider across, we have already decided what we are going to draw at this point. So there isn't really a way to change what's already on the screen. So perhaps the solution would be, if you change this slider, you would reset the little area. I'll take note of this for the future. So reset on duration change, question mark. Yeah, and a good tutorial on how to use your library. Yeah, I think that tutorials and documentation will come much, much later. I will be using the library myself a whole lot. Then after I think that it's good, I will document it and I will publish some videos perhaps. But first I have to have, I think I have to have a good body of plugins using the library. And I don't expect people to follow along with the development and watch 1 hour of streams every day to understand what's up, right? And did you notice something interesting? When I had this window here in front, the frame rate of REAPER, it seems to drop. It was updating, yeah, it's updating these sliders more slowly, and this is not scrolling across smoothly for the most part. It's still interactive. I can still put hover over the box and it changes the background color as it should. But even these meters are updating a lot more slowly, which is weird to me. I don't know what's up with that. And when I move that window out of this monitor, it's back to normal behavior. Right, so this control is for taking the square root of values, which changes the distribution of samples. Louder samples will become, I guess, quieter samples will show up more and louder samples will show up less. So I guess that's what's up here. Then the orientation, then whether to restart on playback. That's a good one. So as I move my cursor across, it's resetting. And now it's not. Personally, I prefer this setting, so I'll have it by default this way. Then the colors of the waveforms, which is kind of cute. Let's see if all the colors look okay. They are using the design system, so one of the differentiating factors of my library when compared to every other JSFX library is that it comes with the design system. So it comes with suggestions on colors, spacing, font sizes, all those things you need to make a plugin look good. Okay, this is okay. Then the grid is not my favorite part. The grid really is, it's okay, but it's not perfect. I think that one of the problems is that the scales are terrible. So perhaps I will do this. I will calibrate this differently. I think that the ranges may be okay. Well, not really. This range seems okay, and that seems okay too. But this is just too much. So perhaps we can start at 96. We learned that the values multiples of 48 look better, and it's already off the charts here. So I'll put this on the TCP. It's already on the TCP. I'll just look at it. Yeah, so this seems okay. And perhaps this could be the minimum. So I probably went back and forth with this. I remember myself let me just take note that I'm talking about the waveform here. I probably went back and forth with this. I'm pretty sure that I changed this value from 96 to 24, and now I'm getting back to 96. And let's look at the upper range, so 192. What does that look like? Looks okay to me. And at 96, we have steps of, yeah, minus 12, minus 6, minus 2.5, and 0. Looks good to me. Oh, and now the color. I don't remember having that. And because the opacity is so low, we can barely see the changes. But let's make this not opaque, not transparent at all. Something is broken. Is it because the grid is displaying? No, something is just plain broken. Oh no. What the hell? It seems like drawing the grid broke everything. Or is my voice weird? Is my voice glitching? Because I suspect that my machine is under heavy load. That's what's up. Because what happens... Okay, so the issue that I saw, you probably saw that too, is as the thing was scrolling across the screen, it was sort of resetting. And it does that because it is losing too many frames, so it thinks that it's no longer drawing, and then it resets. We have this facility that detects when the plugin is not showing and saves CPU by not storing samples. The problem is if your machine is under heavy load, you may be skipping frames even with the plugin open in front of you. And that has the consequence of resetting visibly in front of you. So one thing, I don't know why my machine was under heavy load a moment ago and it's not anymore, because I'm still showing the grid and everything. It's just weird to me. But one thing to learn about this is we probably want to increase the number of lost frames before we declare that the plugin is closed. And this is part of the library. And it is this part. Yeah, so if the plugin loses more than 15 frames, or is this not in frames? This is already taking into account the refresh rate, so this is not in frames. No, yeah, it is. It is in frames. So yeah, 15 frames are lost and then it resets. So if your machine is under heavy load, it will reset the thing every half a second because by default the frame rate is 30. I don't know. I think I'll leave this for now and then just leave a note and we'll fix this at some point when it comes up again. We'll see. Okay, yeah, thanks for answering. No glitching. Good. So at least it was not under that kind of a heavy load. But it was struggling, right? It was trying to draw and failing. But it seems to be back now. So I don't know. Was it maybe when we have the plugin here? Because then it's running at 60 frames per second. I don't know. But man, look at this plugin. This plugin is looking fine. Ah, come on. Look at this. It is great. What's up next? Zoom. Yeah, so I have been playing around with that, I think. Zoom is going from almost silence to 10 times. And I believe that the scale here adjusts itself to that. We have calibrated that before. I will not bother with it again. And another way of controlling the zoom is by clicking and dragging. So you can come here on the interface and click and drag and look at this beauty, updating the labels and everything. And if you double click, it resets to 0 as many other parts of the REAPER interface, like the pen knob. Yeah, I think we have it. This one is in the bag. Let's see what I changed. Some comments here and a range of a parameter there. Awesome. My internet may have had issues and slowed things down. I don't think so, because I was seeing the glitchiness. I was seeing my interface just acting sluggish, and this has nothing to do with the stream. Well, it has nothing to do with my internet because it has nothing to do with pushing data to YouTube. I don't know. Right, so up next, we are going to look at the source for the Waveform plugin. I think I will keep this naming convention. I used it for the auto mixer, and other plugin developers don't use it. You can see that only my plugins use this convention. For instance, Psyche puts his name at the end, and Geraint Love also puts his name at the end, and ReEQ I don't think is even signed. So there is no convention here when it comes to naming, but I think it makes sense to follow the convention of actions. Actions have a strong convention. Actions start with the name of the author, and I think this started with SWS actions. It helps people search. It works well when you have all the plugins showing up, because then all the plugins from one developer will show up in one place. See? So I like this naming convention. I wish more people followed it. I know you can always filter for the name of the person, but having everything in one section of the all plugins list makes sense to me. And it's consistent with ReScript, which also is nice. So the sliders, we just looked at them. There is nothing terribly interesting about them. We can skip. We are importing the library. That's crucial. Then we have this bit, which I think may be part of the library at some point. I don't know. It seems heavy-handed to me, but this allows for features like being able to decide whether or not to reset on playback. And that's turned off. And it's still resetting. Yeah, it seems like the JSFX engine just... Look at that. When the plugin is over here and I start playback, it continues to show the waveform just fine. But when the plugin is over there, it seems to insist on resetting things. And then... Oh, it didn't do it once. Okay. Weird. So when I click around, it respects my setting. Okay, let's go over this in detail. We start on playback. My computer is just acting so strange. Yeah, my computer is just acting super weird. Ugh, yikes. Okay, so as I click around, reset on start playback is off. I click around and the waveform continues to scroll across. I set it on and the waveform resets every time. I set it off and put it there and I click around and it doesn't restart. I set it on and then it restarts. So far, so good. But let's go back to off. Let's go back to looking at it over here. And when I hit play, it doesn't reset. And if I put on and I hit play, it resets. Let's go back to off. And move my cursor, that's okay. I hit play and it resets. Weird, right? I think I have a clue of why that is. I think it's happening because the plugin is running at a higher frame rate. It's running at 60 frames per second, which, by the way, it's smooth, it looks great, I love it. But it is running at 60 frames per second because here, when it's embedded on the MCP, it's part of the REAPER user interface, which runs at 60 frames per second. The problem becomes, well, the problem happens because we are running at a higher frame rate, and there is no way for us to tell that. Or there actually may be a way for us to tell that. It all comes down to this number 15, right? I think. If we make this number larger, it will wait for longer before declaring that we need to reset. And when we are running at 60 frames per second, then this variable should be 60, not 30. Effectively doubling, I think, or halving. I don't know. I have the hardest time reading this formula, but even though I wrote it. But it will have an effect of either doubling or halving this number. Yeah, this number becoming bigger will halve this number. Yeah, it will make this number half as big. So it will reset faster. So I think what we need is to change the refresh rate based on whether the MCP is showing or not. Yeah, I'll leave this for future. Future Leandro will take care of this, but it's important to note that is dependent on whether the MCP is, or whether the plugin is on MCP TCP. That's what's up. Because if we change this variable accordingly, and this is easy to do, right? This is relatively straightforward. We can detect whether the plugin is on the MCP by looking at a variable. We have a variable set for this. And then we can change the refresh rate based on that. And we can have two refresh rates. One for when the plugin is loaded on the regular interface, and one for when the plugin is loaded over here. And if we have these two, and we update the refresh rate accordingly, then it will think that the plugin is running or not in different intervals, different amounts of time, depending on the frame rate, and that will fix this issue. Yeah, I will call this a known bug, and I'll move forward. Hello, Tail. It's great to have you here. I hope you enjoy this. We are going to publish something today. Also, I think that refresh rate should be called frame rate. I don't know why I'm not calling it frame rate, but I think it should be called frame rate. All right, we have one known bug. One other thing that I would like to test. Let's make this relatively smaller. Or maybe even put it on the MCP. And let's have, I imagine this being used as sort of a track template thing where you have this on every track. I'll load the latest version. I changed the range of some parameters. Now, I imagine this being used on a whole mix. So How about we have more tracks? That's plenty. Does it perform well enough? Or is it going to glitch? I think I saw one glitch when scrolling. Oh, and it is smart enough to know that it's not showing, so it resets. Kind of cute. I don't know if that's the best behavior. Perhaps we could always be loading samples into the plugin, but yeah, I like this. I think that this can be useful. And it seems to be good enough. It may not be ideal performance-wise. It seems to hold. And because it is smart enough to not draw when it's not being shown right now. So as I scroll across, you can see on the right of my screen, the new waveforms don't have old history because I was not pushing samples into the circular buffer. That's actually great because it means it may have 1,000 of these plugins and they will not be consuming a lot of CPU unless you're looking at them. Perhaps that could be a setting, because you may want to have the effect of just scrolling across and seeing all the waveforms as they come. It is more CPU, but it's your CPU. So have waveform, have a setting for storing samples even when not visible. Do you also do this? I just take notes by throwing notes anywhere, any file I happen to have open, with the promise that eventually I will get to sort and prioritize and clean all these things up, and eventually I do. But I'm not super organized about taking notes. How about you guys? Are you organized about this? Just hellos, okay. And I was thinking that perhaps we would like to have this as part of the library. Yeah, I was talking about how this is necessary for that feature to work. That feature. And that's what started this whole endeavor. Okay, this is just an enumeration kind of thing to represent this field. And this is redundant with this. And I don't think there is any way in JSFX to fix this redundancy, because I don't think you can put a variable here. So, well, in fact, I know you cannot put I have never tried. Can you put a variable there? I don't think you can. But anyway, I will test this because now it's stuck in my head. But I don't think you can put a variable here, so you have to repeat these two. And I have to have this here because further down, we will be using the mouse to control the zoom. So I need to put the value back in range, so to speak. But now I'm curious, can I put another? So something like slider 16 will start at 10 and its minimum can be the zoom. That will not work. The maximum is 10 and the step is 1 or even 0.1. And that's the something slider. I bet, what do you think is gonna happen? I bet that it's not even gonna load. It's gonna complain about the syntax. It loaded. And something goes from 10 down to 0. Okay, so it just takes that as, I don't know what to do here. I'll just use the default value, which is 0 every time. But it could be kind of cute if we could control the range of sliders dynamically like that. But it would throw off so many parts of the engine and the user interface that's probably never going to happen. So, and similarly, because we cannot have a variable here, we could perhaps get a hold of the minimum and maximum and increment of a slider. That could be cute. That could be perhaps a function for that you would pass a slider to. And then it would remove this redundancy. I'll ask for that, perhaps. Feature request. A way to get a hold of minimum. Well, if you're doing that, we might as well just get the default as well. So all 4. So even this guy. It would clean this up, and also if I come here and change the range, I will probably forget to change this. So it would be nice to have that programmatic access. I usually have a to-do text file or something like that in my Git repository, and I just add my notes in there. Yeah, I have one of those in this repository. Well, not in this repository, because this is in my effects folder in my REAPER configuration, but in my REAPER repository that we are going to get to in a couple minutes, I have one of those files. It's a complete mess. I don't know how I managed that. But somehow things are shipped from time to time, so it seems to be working. All right, the number of waveforms that we'll have at most is the number of channels. The number of channels starts at 0. What happens if I have my plugin open and I change the number of channels on a track? I really hope that it just calls init again. I'll remove this second one. In fact, I will bring in a new one just in case. Okay, so everything is good. Let's route. Now, oh, come on. You stay there. I will get into routing and add a couple of tracks. Seems to behave well. If I have all open, it breaks. Is it because of the number of channels change? Nope. Oh no. If I have 2, yikes, it's now just completely messed up. And we'll be shipping this. What a shame. If I put 2, it's okay. If I put 3, it breaks. Why? I don't know. Waveform. Multi-channel is broken. Stereo works fine. We want to release this, right? So let's have a quick fix. We will remove this slider completely. No, I think I'll just have 1 and 2. Okay, and then it should work. One is okay, 2 is also okay. All is broken. God damn it. What is happening when I do the number of channels being equals to all? The number of channels is the minimum between the number of channels, because I don't want to have more than the number of channels. That makes sense. And if I am considering all channels, then that should be the number of channels. Otherwise, it is that value. Looks good to me. What is the debugger saying? This channels variable, it should behave correctly. Let's see. Well, I guess I will have a fresh, unbroken instance. Or for that matter, for now, because we are doing a quick fix, I was gonna say I would just remove this option, which kind of makes sense anyway, because, right? All and 2, they are the same, whatever. The problem is now everything is off by 1. And that bugs me. Well, I'll just leave another fix me here. And with that, the number of channels is just the number of... Well, since we have that, I think I will just call it mono and stereo for now. Which is such a shame, because the whole library is multi-channel. Oh, god damn it. So now the number of channels is just the number of the number in the slider plus 1. Channels, mono and stereo, and they both work. Okay. So we have a one known bug that is kind of obscure, the retriggering on playback when the thing is on the TCP. And I took note of that, didn't I? Here. See waveform on TCP when you hit play. There we go. So we have one known bug, that bug, but that's a minor bug, and it is such an obscure bug that I don't care about it. And this, which I do care about because it is literally the first slider in the plugin, is working. Good on us. Okay, where was I? I was allocating waveform displays, the number of channels. I'm just looking over the channels here. On the slider block, I compute the number of channels based on the channel slider with this quick hack. Then I show and hide some sliders. The serialized block is standard. This is part of the library. Here we are resetting the waveform under these conditions. When the sample block is just transitioning from having been bypassed back into being active. This is for when the plugin was not showing and it is just starting to show. And this is for when you have that setting to restart, to reset on start of playback. And it is the start of playback right now. You know, under all or under any of these conditions, I reset the waveform display. If the effect is showing, then I push samples into the circular buffer. This is part of the library. This is part of the library. Here, if the interactive area is active, so in other words, you have clicked and you're still holding the button, you have your mouse down currently, then the zoom will be adjusted by this much. We could have some cute trick here. This number 10, it is the amount by which we move. So if I made the number bigger, I guess instead of dividing by 10, I will multiply by 0.1, which is faster. It means the same, but the reason why I'm doing this is that it is more intuitive this way, where if I increase this number, the changes will be bigger instead of the other way around. Yeah, it's better this way. Isn't the third value in an enum slider supposed to be its step 1? It probably doesn't matter though. Yeah, that's what I found out. So let's talk about this. When you have this kind of drop-down menu on a slider, in the documentation, they say that you should have something like you have 2 fields, so it should go from 0 to 2. It has 2 fields, so it should go from 0 to 1, because that's 2 values, 0 and 1, and the step should be 1. And then anytime I would come here and change something like I just did, I changed from having 65 options to having just 2, I would have to come and, in many cases, I would have to count them. And then I would have to come here and update this number. Like now there are 15 options. And then I got sick of doing that, and I said, well, what happens if I just put a bunch of zeros there? And it just works all the same. It doesn't look at these values at all, as far as I can tell. So I started this convention of just putting a bunch of zeros there to make JSFX happy, because probably the parser expects 3 numbers there. And then put the options here. It just works. Or at least it seems to. I don't know. As we saw, if you can put any kind of junk here, and JSFX will take it. So I guess I could say this is a drop-down menu, right? If you are watching this and you know something that goes wrong when you do this, let me know. I want to know. Right, okay, so I was at this point, and the cute thing that I would like to do is change this range to do something when you have command pressed down. I think that's how, yeah, that's how other parts of the interface in REAPER works, or other parts work, right? Singular. Yeah, so I'm moving the slider, and if I hold down command, then it gets into this fine-grained mode. And in this slider, because the granularity is so coarse, it doesn't really matter. But here, I think it would be nice to respect this, so I will do it. I will say, if the control key on Windows or command on the Mac, if the control key is held down, then the step should be 0.01. Goes down by 1 order of magnitude for precision mode. That's a cute little trick that is so inexpensive in terms of code that I just put it there. Even though this is kind of a code review where we shouldn't be doing major changes, but this is not a major change. Right, so if I click and drag and then I hold command, I can do finer adjustments. Unfortunately, I cannot do the behavior of capturing the cursor of the mouse. You can see that the cursor goes away when I hold command. Unfortunately, that is impossible to do in JSFX. Well, whatever. It is what it is. When I hold command now, it is being a bit slower, which is consistent with the REAPER interface. I love it. Then we do this library function that adjusts the zoom to be in the same range as the slider. Okay. Then, if we are hovering, then, if I am hovering and I just double-clicked, it means that I double-clicked in the area, so reset the zoom. Then start drawing stuff. So we are done with the user interactivity. Now we are starting the drawing part, and it is relatively straightforward. Let's go through it. Set the background color. If the effect is running at all, then this whole block. So the rest is drawing stuff. So the rest will only occur if there are samples coming in. In other words, when I bypass, the rest of the interface just stops. It keeps showing whatever was showing before. What happens if I put this here? Because everything else about drawing is in that block, so I might as well, right? When I bypass, yeah, it looks the same, whatever. Okay, kind of nice. You have the block where we do user interactivity, where we handle mouse events and stage. And then we get into this block where we say, are we bypass? If so, just skip the whole drawing. Otherwise, do the whole drawing. Let's get to the drawing. We set the background color. We do some computations of positions and dimensions. We check if we are being hovered or if we are being clicked on. And then we change the color of that interactive area background. We draw a rectangle. Then we draw, well, we compute some more coordinates, and then we're going to do a big loop. This is the actual drawing of the waveforms. So we're just calling the library function with a bunch of parameters. I'm fine with that. I thought that I have figured why we are having this bug with this channel slider, but I have not. So we have a fix me here. Well, I'll leave it there. Then we print the instructions, and we draw a little square around this preview window. That's it. Now, when it comes to the library, I will not go over this waveform display yet again, because we have implemented that 15 times. I am sick of it, so I will not review that. And also, I think I already know of some issues in the library anyway that we'll probably have to address when we get to the automixer, specifically the issue of syncing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I think that this is ready. This is the version we are going to ship. Let's get to the actual shipping of the thing. So as I said, I am working off of my effects folder from my REAPER configuration. So if I see what folder I'm in, you'll see that I'm on my REAPER folder. I will also open my code REAPER folder, and that's the folder that you see in my GitHub repository, link in the description, where you can get this plugin and many others. And there are no changes on this directory, which is surprising to me because I always have junk laying around here. Then we have the effects folder, and we have an old version of the library, and we have an old version of the waveform display. I will just overwrite these files. So that's my development workflow for you all. If you know of a better way, please let me know. I guess perhaps I could have a symlink, but what I currently have is I have a repository right in my effects folder in my REAPER configuration, and that's where I do most of the development. Anytime you see me committing stuff, I'm committing there. And then I have this other folder that I drag and drop things to and from when I'm ready to release, which is kind of nice because I have this separation of things that are work in progresses and things that are published, but it's kind of also kind of annoying to have to drag things around. Okay, so this changes the file. So I guess we can see stuff that changed recently, but I will not bother. And then I will push the changes to GitHub. And I will come into this index file, and that's the index for ReaPack. There is a video in which I show the details of this. For the most part, it boils down to find the XML that does what you want in another plugin, copy and paste and change. Or you can use a tool developed by Cphilion that manages this for you. I just write my XML by hand because it's such a simple format. So let's release, well, it's not really version 1.0, right? I guess the previous version should not have been numbered 1.0, but since it was numbered 1.0, the real actual release will be version 1.1. Whatever. And in the plugin, we have a notion of version as well. For backwards compatibility, we store the version in the plugin. And if the plugin updates, then we will know, because the version that comes out of this will be an older version. And you may be thinking, well, do you want to set this as 1.1.0? I could, but in reality, I don't tend to do that. I only do it when there is a change that is going to break. So this number and that number don't necessarily correlate. Okay, so next, I want to, the files didn't change their names, but I want to change this commit ID to be the commit ID of the commit we have just created. So let's look at the timeline. We have just created a commit. This is the number of that commit. And the reason why I pushed a minute earlier is because I want to be able to command click on this and see it there. So it is working. And there is something to be said about releasing multiple plugins using the library, right? As the library evolves, I don't necessarily want to go back to existing plugins and fix all of them. In other words, I want to ship one version of the library per plugin, and I advise everyone to do the same. When using the library, copy the library into your own plugin space and have it there. So if you update the library in a backwards incompatible way, existing plugins don't break. So that's what we are going to do. And now I need to look at an example of how to do this. It seems like this is the parameter I want to have. So I was before in this release just relying on the default, which is just put these names to the files, but now I'm going to give the files specific names, and because I do that, I will be able to put them in a folder. Right. And then there will be a folder with the name of the plugin, and then there will be the name of the file. And because I am putting both files in the same folder, this relative import should still work because it is looking at the same directory. There will be a copy of the library in that directory. But because I am isolating everything in this folder, I could have multiple plugins using the library, and they could have different versions of the library, and that's fine. Great. I hope this works. Let's test. I will push. I will move back to REAPER, and I will update my packages. All right. Yep, so this file was removed. The library file should have been removed too, but it seems like it will be left behind as junk. So this is my development directory, and this is the ReaPack version, right? So this is where the effects end up when you install them from ReaPack. And oh, interesting, it cleaned the file up. That file is no longer here. And there are the 2 files over there. Good. So it didn't say it here, but it worked. And then in terms of installed, we should see ourselves here. And here we are. We updated from version 1 to version 1.1. No changelog. I never write changelogs. Not here anyway, okay? So I may write changelogs. I think I will write a changelog for the Automixer plugin because it will be a big change, but I don't write it here. ReaPack for me is just a way of distributing plugins. It's not a way of discovering plugins. That's how I use ReaPack, both as a user as well as a publisher, as a developer, right? I don't know if people do it like me, but when I install ReaPack, I always just come here to the options and install new packages when synchronizing. So I just install everything from every repository. Okay, so with that, we have an issue because we have 2 plugins with the same name, the development version and the ReaPack version. And this is the real one. This is the development one. It seems like it's scanning. It seems like Reaper is scanning the folders in order. So it finds my development directory first. This is the ReaPack version. I can tell by the path. So if I open that, hey, it works. And now you can go to the link in the description, find my Reaper repository on GitHub and install this yourself. Go ahead. Do it right now. Okay, so moving forward, tomorrow, very special stream. We'll be talking to, I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, Jatin Chowdhury. I don't know. I'll have to learn. He's the developer of Chow Tape, of a Clone Centaur emulation, and we'll be talking about analog modeling. It will be a lot of fun. On Thursday, we will be talking to Helgo Boss, the creator of what is it called? Creator of Reticulate. Did I get it right? Yes. And did I get the person right? Helgo Boss Reticulate. No, wrong project. Relearn. That's the name of the project. Yeah. I was thinking, yeah, this has to do, reticulate has to do with articulation, but the person is developing stuff that has to do with MIDI. Wrong project name, Relearn. Yes, we'll be talking to him on Thursday. And then I think we'll have so many long streams that I'll probably not stream on Friday, but next time we stream on this JSFX library stuff, we'll be looking at the Automixer, and we are going to add visualizations of waveforms. We are going to add mouse interactivity with buttons. We are going to be revisiting the actual algorithm and re-implementing it using the library. Now we have a circular buffer in the library, for instance. So we'll be doing that. And we'll be fixing many bugs along the way. It will be such a joy to start using the library for non-toys. So thank you all for coming. Tail, M9, Bo, everyone else who is watching and just not being active on the chat. I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye. Oh, no. Before I go, one more thing. I just want to shout out the biggest sponsor of this channel. Well, the biggest one-time contribution to this channel, which is huge. So I just want to shout this out because it's a big deal. Microsoft just became the biggest sponsor, or I guess one-time sponsor of this channel. In their maintainer appreciation program, something, they, on GitHub, they used, of course, GitHub because they are Microsoft, right? So they used GitHub sponsors. You can go to, if you want to sponsor me via GitHub, you can go there. It's right here on my website, link in the description, of course. And GitHub sponsors. There you go. And they became the biggest sponsor ever. More than $5,000. Amazing. Thank you very much, Microsoft. Yeah, shout out to Microsoft. See you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you for watching the stream, you know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.